Hello, my name is Eric Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today we'll be talking about how to be happy and causeless happiness. How to be happy, how do I become happy, is probably one of the most common questions asked by humanity in general. Happiness is the focus of many things, be it the Declaration of Independence in the United States, where we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's a lot of focus on the idea of happiness, but unfortunately, in the West, in the United States, even like I said, due to our Constitution, we have this idea that happiness is something that's caused. We pursue it, we do something for it, we create it for ourselves. And of course, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of happiness. Happiness ultimately does not need a cause. It arises from being. What we do cause is misery, suffering, dissatisfaction for ourselves. For all action and reaction, all action, reaction, including our emotional reactions and thoughts and everything else to the world, arises in response based upon our understanding or misunderstanding, as the case may be, at that point in time. And so, if a thing were to happen, one person, based on their understanding, may be ticked off by it. Someone else may actually laugh at it. There might even be people pleased by it. These various reactions arising to the exact same happening happen because of understanding. Our understanding and point of view vary. And so based upon understanding and point of view, the reactions can vary. But it is due to our own misunderstanding, our conceptions, our beliefs, ignorance, that we create misery, suffering, discontent for ourselves. Obviously not knowingly. Because if people really knew they were doing it to themselves, they would probably stop. But what happens is we have some firmly or deeply held belief, and something happens counter to it, and we're displeased. And so, this dissatisfaction and suffering and misery arise to stuff that we're holding on to. And so it has really less to do with what's happening in the world than what our beliefs and concepts are. It is a common practice to try to look for happiness by looking out in the world, acquiring things. Could be, people start out by trying to acquire possessions. Well, maybe if I get this, that, or the other thing, I'll be happy. It may move on to intellect. Well, if I learn this, that, or the other thing, I might be happy. It might be emotional. If I find my significant other, my love of my life, whatever, I might be happy. And that is always trying to find happiness outside of yourself. It's pursuing it elsewhere. It is, trying to look for the answer outside of yourself. And it really is a futile search. People can spend their entire lives trying to find out how to be happy and look everywhere else and never really find it. There are many a person on their deathbed who laments that they've really never found happiness. And the reason is they've been looking in all the wrong places. It's not outside ourselves. And so occasionally when somebody asks me, well, how do I be happy? I always say you gotta look within. You are, the source of happiness. It's not outside of you. There's nowhere else to look. There's no exterior cause that will give everlasting happiness. I mean, anything that you might find outside yourself, buying a new car or something, that might give temporary pleasure. And for a time, there might be a feeling of being happy, but it always passes. The neighbor or somebody you respect gets a better car or whatever, and now the car you have is no longer good enough. You get promoted, but somebody starts their own very successful company, and now being an employee, although successful, just isn't good enough anymore. There's always this way that we destroy our own happiness by comparison, by judging, by not ever being happy with what we have. And really, if you delve into it deep enough, we really don't need a whole lot. We think we need so much more than we really need. I mean, for the people that really think that money might be the answer, there's many a very poor person you can point to that are very happy, even though they're poor. Or there's people like, I know that in the past there was a peace pilgrim. There's this other woman, I can't remember her name, but there's a documentary, Living Without Money or something like that. And she's been without money for decades. And so and you can even look at, saints, yogis, renunciants in India. They have nothing, but they're happy. And so having things isn't the answer. Likewise, knowing things isn't the answer. Likewise, emotionally looking for, love and connection outside yourself really isn't the answer. And so it always comes down to, what's the answer? It's within. For what people don't really do is look deep within. There is this spring of causeless happiness. It arises from being. I call it a spring of causeless happiness, but in the East, in India, they would say what we really are is sat-chit-ananda. Sat being existence, chit being consciousness, awareness, and ananda is bliss, which could also include happiness. What we are is bliss, happiness. And what that's pointing out to is there is within our very being this causeless happiness. It doesn't need anything to arise. However, it is what I would say would be fragile in that it can be dispelled quite easily by us creating misery, suffering, and discontent for ourselves. When we have a reason to be unhappy, we're unhappy. When there's no reason to be unhappy, we're happy. So it's not so much needing a reason to be happy as cease finding reasons to be unhappy. Cease causing misery and suffering to yourself. That's a lot of it, is ceasing to create your own misery, dissatisfaction, discontentment, and suffering. This, of course, requires delving into your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, concepts. Some of them could be very deeply cherished or deeply held beliefs, but they might be the very source of all your misery in life. And you have to be willing to let it go. Anything that causes unhappiness, misery, suffering, you can delve into that and look for the roots and the origins, and when did it first arise? What were the triggers? Why did it arise? What was the belief concept? What was the basis of this arising? And you can question it all. And in the questioning and in the observation, you're looking to see and learn more. And in the learning more, understanding arises. And with understanding, because as I said, all action and reaction arise from understanding or misunderstanding at that point in time. As understanding changes, the reactions change. And so what may have caused discontent, misery, anguish, whatever, may no longer cause that when the understanding changes. But it always comes down to the two things of ceasing to cause yourself unhappiness, and then also deeply diving into your own being and finding the causeless happiness and joy within. That you can just sit and not need anything. Be perfectly content with what is, as it is. To say what is enough, as it is, for now. And not need to change it. Have a problem with it. And this is normal. I mean, things will arise, and then that's other stuff to look at. But the thing is day to day can be rather, filled with happiness, as long as it's arising from being, not caused by things that will inevitably go away. I mean, whatever that you might find outside yourself to cause some kind of happiness will only be temporary, for everything is temporary. It goes away. And when it goes away, you'll be unhappy again. But the causeless happiness that arises from one's being never goes away unless you create unhappiness for yourself and shove it away. And so when you cease creating this suffering, discontentment, misery, and find the causeless happiness within, there's this point where you don't really need anything to make you happy. Even, some people ask, what's the simple things that will give you happiness, or what can I do for happiness? Really, when you have this causeless happiness within being, simply breathing in and breathing out is happiness, is joy. You don't really need anything else. Now, if you have any questions, comments, please post below. As always, you can subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell for notification. I'm working on trying to put together actually a much shorter online satsangs and Q&A sessions. Kind of a satsang Q&A session, about a half hour. I think I'll stay tuned. You'll get a notice about that. And I'm working on some other things, so stay tuned. But until next time, thank you much.